She was the first in so many different ways. She was born in an era when university education was not allowed in her country in Europe, but still, she is the first person to receive the Nobel Prize twice. She is the mother of modern physics, born on November 7, 1867 in Poland as Maria Sklodowska. Maria was the youngest of 5 children. When she was only 10, she lost her mother to tuberculosis. From the childhood, she had a remarkable memory, won a gold medal at the age of 16 at the Russian Lyceum. Even after showing such prodigious success and her quest for knowledge, her formal education was not guaranteed because of her family's financial crisis. Maria couldn't go to a university in Poland because under Russian Empire, women were not allowed to go to university, and her family couldn't afford to send her elsewhere. Maria's father, who was a teacher of physics and mathematics, lost his savings through bad investment. So she had to take up a job as a teacher. And at the age of 18, she took up a job as a governess to support her family and finance her sister's medical studies in Paris. She suffered through a bad love affair at the same time too. She worked and supported her sister's education with the hope that once her study would be completed, she would return the favor. And her sister Brania actually returned the favor. In 1891, at the age of 24, Maria went to Paris with her sister's support, and in Paris her name became Mary from Maria. She started her university education at the Sorbonne. There she met the renowned physicists like Jean Pierre, Charles Morin, and Amy Cotton. She pretty much lived on bread, butter, and tea, and worked very hard at school. Her health suffered because of such poor diet. Mary came first in the license of physical sciences in 1893. She got a chance to work in Gabriel Lippmann's research lab. The next year, in 1894, she got second place in the license of mathematical science. In the same year, she met Pierre Curie, another brilliant mind of that era. She met Pierre Curie through a common friend after she completed her master's degree. Pierre Curie had some extra lab space Mary needed for her research on the magnetic properties of steel. They fell in love and got married in next year. Here is a fun fact. They went to a bicycle trip on their honeymoon. When two of the most brilliant minds came together, they became the partners in life and in research as well. Mary's research interest focused on the minerals that may have the same properties as uranium, following the Henri Becquerel's discovery, which she called radioactivity. At first, Pierre had a different research project, but after Mary discovered radioactivity, he put his research aside to help her with her research. Mary and Pierre Curie's collaboration contributed significantly in the world of science. They discovered polonium and radium in 1898. The name polonium came from Poland, Mary's native land. Mary Curie got her doctorate in science for her research in radioactive materials in 1903. Mary Curie and Pierre Curie were awarded the Davy Medal of the Royal Society and the Nobel Prize in Physics, along with Henri Becquerel for the discovery of radioactivity. It wasn't a straightforward decision. French Academy proposed to give the Nobel Prize to only Pierre Curie and Becquerel, probably because Mary was a woman and also an immigrant. But Swedish mathematician Gustav Leffler informed Pierre about the situation and made sure that Marie Curie also received the honor. Despite all odds, Marie Curie became the first woman to ever receive a Nobel Prize. She gave birth to 2 daughters, Irene and Eve, in 1897 and 1904. But that didn't interrupt her research. She introduced a teaching method based on experimental demonstrations when she was a lecturer in physics at the École Normande Supérieure for Girls in Sèvres in 1900. Her husband Pierre Curie's death in 1906 was a turning point in her life, when she had to make a decision to continue the research they were undertaking together, all by herself. In May 1906, she was appointed as a professor as a replacement of her late husband. She became the first woman to teach in Sorbonne. In 1908, she became a titular professor, and in 1911, she was awarded Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the pure isolation of radium. This time she received the Nobel Prize alone. But there was a huge backlash against her. Her relationship with her late husband's doctoral student, Paul Langevin, was making headlines in the tabloids on a regular basis. Paul Langevin was in an unhappy marriage. Marie Curie was accused of being a homewrecker. All the tabloids were after her for the affair, but not talking about her scientific achievements at all. The Nobel Committee was very nervous and secretly requested her not to go to Stockholm to physically receive the award herself. But the genius Einstein, who got to know Marie during the Solvay conference in Brussels in 1911, wrote her a letter insisting her to go and receive the award herself. He wrote, "I'm inclined to tell you how much I have come to admire your intellect, your drive, and your honesty." He also wrote, "Simply don't read this hogwash, but rather leave it to the reptile for whom it has been fabricated." She went to the Stockholm to accept her second Nobel Prize in chemistry. She faced so much injustices. Despite her remarkable work in the field of science, after receiving 2 Nobel Prizes, when he applied for a vacant seat for a physicist in the French Academy of Science, she was denied. Even more remarkable fact was that she was able to continue her research without a proper lab facility. Even after her first Nobel Prize, when Pierre Curie asked for a proper lab facility, university was reluctant about it. Finally, in 1914, she could witness the completion of the building of the laboratories of the Radium Institute in the University of Paris. In 1918, her brilliant daughter Irene joined her at the Radium Institute. Irene also devoted her life in the research of radioactive matter, especially in X-radiography. The Radium Institute became the universal center for nuclear physics and chemistry. Her humanitarian work also never got any recognition. During World War I, Mary and her daughter Irene played a significant role to treat the wounded soldiers. They trained more than 100 other women to treat the fractured joints using the radiation. In 1921, Marie Curie made her journey to the United States along with her 2 daughters. Then US President Warren G. Harding presented her with a gram of radium bought as a result of a collection among American women. Mary's daughter Irene and her husband Frederick Joliot awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their contribution in radioactive material in 1935. Mary's other daughter Eve became a concert pianist and married a diplomat, Henri, who accepted Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of UNICEF in 1935 when he was working as an executive director in UNICEF. Mary didn't have the luck to witness her daughter receiving the Nobel Prize. She died just a year before, in the year 1934, because of aplastic anemia caused by irradiation. Marie Curie devoted her life to the study of the radioactive materials, and later the use of radioactive materials in the medical science. At that stage, no one knew the harm it can cause to anyone, and no one knew about the protective measures. So Mary was exposed to the radiation all her life, and it had severe effects on her health. Her notebooks are stored in lead-lined boxes in France even today because they were radioactive by radium. They will be in the lead-lined boxes in the years to come, as radium has a half-life of 1600 years.